Welcome to another episode of Locked On NBA Game Night, where it's every game, every night. On today's episode, me and Swipa are going to break down Luka Doncic playing over in Germany. Plus, Joe Mazzulla gets a multi-year contract extension with the Boston Celtics. We'll talk about all that plus more on today's Locked On NBA Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
What's going on, everydayers? Welcome to another episode of Locked On NBA Game Night. My name is Haize. I am joined by one of the hosts of Locked On Nuggets, Swipa, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Swipa, we're starting off with Luka Dončić, who is playing a prep game with his national team, I guess to get ready for the NBA season. How do you feel about this? A lot's been made with Luka and contracts and things like that, getting ready for the Lakers, the new weight that he lost. How you feeling about him playing overseas?
Well, obviously, this is something really important to Luka, and I think that this is always something he wants to be a part of. Playing overseas, it's an honor, and for a lot of players, they grew up knowing and believing that this is the best that they would ever get. A lot of people don't think they're going to play in the NBA, and obviously Slovenia is not a huge country as it is anyway. So Luka, his whole life, has wanted to be on this team, and I think that is great that he gets an opportunity to go back and to honor his country, to honor his home flag every single year for the most part. But he looked like Luka reportedly. Luka's 23 points apparently. This is about almost at the end of the game, or end of the game now. 23 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists. He was 9 of 22 from the field. They got blown out. They lost by 29 points to Germany. Germany is a much better team than Slovenia. But I think this is just good work. You want to continue to see him. I'm not talking about the in shape from the narrative stuff. So, everybody out there kind of don't hear me talk about that, but you just want to get your players integrated and getting used to playing basketball again. And just to be in the flow of playing 5-on-5 basketball and just having to deal with the contact, the physicality, and just to be able to play and run around and get a sweat. And, Luka, much has been made, and probably the story of the offseason right now has been Luka's fitness. And I think Luka has taken a very serious turn in his approach to basketball. I think that this is going to be a huge year for him, hopefully. But I think that this is a really good opportunity for him to continue to just develop, I think, a good cohesion within himself, both from a physical and mental standpoint. That way, he can just feel good about where he is, about where his body is, and he can just continue to just try to be the dominant, top 4, top 3 player that he is in the sport. So I'm really excited for him. Really excited to watch Slovenia as the matchups getting more serious in Eurobasket and stuff as well, because there's going to be a lot of really, really, really good basketball that's played here over the next couple of months, and Luka's going to be at the forefront of that. So very happy to see him play, and again, to look like Luka.
Yeah, and this is an exciting period for Luka Doncic. He got traded to the Lakers. He didn't expect it. Nobody expected it. But now he's there. He's there. He's settled in. And now, you get to focus on what the next phase of that is. And, playing for his national country is an honor. And now, just as a tune-up, and, we'll see what the next phase brings. Let me ask you this. What do you want to see from Luka Doncic next season? What are the expectations around Luka? And now how they've remodeled this team. I don't think it's still not nearly in the place that it's going to be in a couple of years when they really get even more of an opportunity to continue to build this around Luka's skill set. But what are you feeling for Luka's season coming up?
Obviously, I think he's going to be great. I think Luka's going to be right in the thick of the MVP conversation as he usually is. He's a spectacular player. He does a lot of things at a very high level. He's one of the best playmakers, scorers, on-ball creators, passers, drivers that is in the league currently. He's a really good rebounding guard as well, even though he's more of a forward. He offers a lot, I think, as a solve for teams. And he's truly one of the most elite offensive engines that we've ever had in the NBA. So I think that this is going to be greatness from Luka Doncic. He could have a career season from both ends. A lot of people say that the year he had 2 years ago, he finished third in MVP race. He averaged 33.9 points a game, 9.8 assists per game, 9.2 rebounds per game that year, 1.4 steals. I thought he was really good. first team All NBA that year. This could be another year where we get those kind of performances from him. Haize, if you look at every year of his career since his second year in the NBA, 28.8 points per game, 27.7 points per game, 28.4 points per game, 32.4 points per game, 33.9 points per game. And then last year in total with both LA and Dallas, he averaged 28.2 points a game. He's averaging 28.2, 8.2 assists, and 8.6 rebounds over the course of his career. Just like that's like a baseline for Luka. So there's probably a very real reality, honestly, Haize, where he's at that place again. As they continue to I think to seed touches for LeBron to give Luka the ball to be able to run the offense. I think for him and Austin Reeves kind of figure out like how they're going to use their personnel. Marcus Smart, Rui Hachimura, obviously Jackson Hayes, DeAndre Ayton. The team isn't crazy deep, and so they're going to need a lot of great basketball play from Luka in order to be all the things that they want to be this upcoming season. So I'm really excited for him. I think he's going to be dominant. Like I said, I think at worst, if he's healthy, he finishes top 4 in the MVP race, which is about where he has kind of been slotted in the MVP race for the most part. I think Giannis, SGA, Jokic, maybe Wemby, that might be the top 5 in the race next year, but he's going to have a spectacular year, if not be the outright runaway favorite to win the MVP.
I mean, that would be amazing for him to be that, to be a favorite to win MVP. I mean, he's always going to be an MVP consideration. He's just that level and caliber of player. I have my doubts around the Lakers, like roster and makeup. Not doubts around Luka. I mean, Luka is who he is. Not to say he still can't refine his skill year after year, because I hope he does. The Lakers team just right now just does not seem to me. I don't feel like they're a team that's really, really going to compete. They're going to win a lot of regular season games, but I've been surprised before. So I'm not going to, pencil them or box them into just being in a certain area. I don't have those high expectations. I don't think they're ready yet. They don't necessarily have to be a championship contender right now. We know they still need some other things around Luka. Losing Dorian Finney-Smith is huge for them too. That sucks for them to lose a player like that, but they'll figure it out. The Lakers seem very committed and locked in with making sure they restructure this thing around Luka, and that's where you want him to be at right now. Luka Doncic is a very special talent in this league. You don't get talent like that very often unless you are the Lakers, and you definitely don't get them traded to you in their prime unless you're the Lakers. So now they got to maximize and make the most of that. Mm-hmm. I still have my questions and my hesitation over how good Luka and Austin Reeves can be together. And that's just one of the questions that I have about this team. Very small sample size last year. They have a full season now to prove that concern, to quiet that concern, I should say. But that's a big one I have, because either Luka and Austin Reeves are going to work together, or you may look to move Austin Reeves to get a player that more naturally fits around Luka. That may be something that you have to do. And I think that's a question that the Lakers are going to have to get the answer for during this upcoming season.
Yeah, and I'm looking over here at, on the site from Luka's season. Luka last year, when he played with LeBron, per 75 was at about 23 points a game, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, 58% true shooting, 37% from 3. It's good for especially the volume. But without LeBron, in the 417 minutes he played without LeBron, his per 75, 38.3 points per game, 8.8 assists, 10 rebounds, 4 turnovers, 59.6 true shooting, and his free throw attempts were through the roof. So I think Luka is going to play a lot more time this year without LeBron, especially in the non-LeBron minutes, with the bench unit. And I think he's going to find a really cool way to find a standard of play with DeAndre Ayton, especially, and to be able to find a way to really get him involved as a play finisher, whether it's playing in that little 15 to 10 foot spot that DeAndre Ayton loves to take those little shots from, that he's really good in the mid-range area there, or a rim runner. I think finding ways to continue to utilize Jackson Hayes, he's going to have a big part to saying that. I'm actually really curious to see what the Jake LaRavia minutes look like with Luka. Jake is a good shooter. He's actually can grade out as a good defender. It's just really matchup dependent, but I think he's going to offer some value to this team. I mean, overall, man, this is not Luka's best team he'd ever played on, maybe even the top 3 team he's played on. But I do think there are going to be some really interesting lineups they can throw out there to really try to maximize the things that he does at a high level. But this is going to be a special season, man. I'm really excited to see it. I think this is going to be this is going to be a year for the ages for sure.
I agree with you. I agree with you. It's going to be fun to watch. I'm going to be here covering it every single night. Next up, we're going to be talking about Joe Mazzulla and his extension with the Boston Celtics and the kind of the expectations around him, as the Celtics are going to be a much different team next year than what they were last year. But first, we got to get to a message from Open Phone. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had an urgent need, maybe for a plumber or a service provider. If the first person didn't answer, did you wait? Probably not. You moved on. That's why you need Open Phone. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system built to streamline and scale your customer communications, all from an app on your phone or computer. Open Phone lets me manage business calls and text from a single app. The shared inbox feature is a game changer. Your team can jump into any conversation instantly without missing a beat. And their AI agent handles after-hours calls, answers common questions, and captures leads so you never miss a customer. OpenPhone is offering our listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That's OPENPHONE.com/LockedOnNBA. And if you have an existing number with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers. More Locked On NBA Game Night coming up next. All right, Swiper, let's get into this, man. Joe Mazzulla and the Boston Celtics today announced a multi-year contract extension to keep him there in Boston. It was him and Brad Stevens to do this announcement. Brad Stevens talked about how Joe Mazzulla not only has pride in the Celtics and in the organization, he said it goes as deep as some of the most diehard fans in that organization. Many will remember that Joe Mazzulla took over with all the craziness going on in Ime Udoka in the end of his coaching career there in Boston before he's moved on to Houston. But he's done an adamant job. They've gone to, the playoffs every year that he's been there. He's averaged 60 wins per season per. They're going into a new phase of their franchise, at least for next year, while Tatum is down. Let's talk about the extension first. How you felt about Joe Mazzulla's time there and them locking him into a multi-year extension?
Well, one, he's well deserving. They've been maybe the best team in the East regular season for the last 2 years, depending on how you feel about Cleveland last year. Winning a championship, like, that's not a small thing, regardless of like some of the, circumstances with the other teams in the Eastern Conference around it. They won a ring, and they hadn't done that since 2008. And they had multiple teams that tried to make it happen. He's turned the Boston Celtics into one of the, honestly, maybe the best version of what a modern NBA offense looks like, with the level of three-pointers that they're shooting. Their defense has still remained very good. I'm looking at dunks and threes right now. They had a top 6 defense in the NBA last year in the regular season. They had a top 2 offense in the NBA last year in the regular season. And they found a way to be able to be the highest volume three-point shooting team in the NBA. And they've done this and being able to find a way to still be really efficient. They have found a way to be able to really focus on generating the best possible shots. And I think that's like a really, really valuable trait and asset. They're in many ways like kind of at the source of criticism for a lot of people that, this is the team that's like taking way too many threes and they're doing this and that. Well, the issue is you have a really hard time beating this team, regardless of what you think about it. And Joe Mazzulla, he's been a big author behind why they're so good and what makes them, I think, such a dominating basketball team. And I really like what he's done with the personnel. I even think Sam Hauser, Luke Cornett, like, those are players that in other situations they might not be able to thrive. But Joe Mazzulla has built a culture that they feel comfortable in, that they feel like they're empowered to be the best version of themselves. And I'm really excited to see what he does over the next several years. In this phase, there's no Jason Tatum. Jaylen Brown's coming off an injury. There's no KP. They got rid of Drew Holiday. I mean, this team is completely different. Anthony Simons now is going to be really maybe their lead ball handler. And him and Derek White, the team is just way different. Kata's going to be starting at the center position. They got Xavier Tillman. They just got Chris Boucher. Luka Garza is on the roster. Peyton Pritchard's still there. But this is going to be a weird season. Many of us are looking at this saying, man, like, they should really take this season to tank. They can just up their value. They can get a high draft pick next year, especially when you got players that 3 of them you can make the conversation that they're the number 1 overall player in the draft that should be drafted number 1. And then you give them an opportunity to kind of rebrand and to rebuild, to get a younger player in the system that's elite. And then they play next to Jaylen Brown. They play next to Jason Tatum. Like, that's the ideal. That's the floor and the formula for them. And I think Mazzulla is the perfect coach for Boston, and to make sure they're implementing this system, and to make sure that the players have what they need, that the X's and O's are covered. And I think just from a personal standpoint, Mazzulla is very well liked in the locker room as well. So extremely well deserving of that contract extension.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely deserving of it. I mean, just the way that he has that team executed, the success that they've had on the court, like you said, in the regular season, winning a title, there's no doubt that he's worthy of that extension. The key thing here that I think, like, going forward, that's going to be important for Joe Mazzulla is like how he handles the adversity. Like this upcoming season, it's going to be he's going to have to do a hell of a coaching job. And I still look at this Boston Celtics team. They're not going to be what they were. I don't think they're going to be a top 2-3 team in the East. I do think they can still avoid the play-in. I think especially in that Eastern Conference, how they have the offense, they're not going to have the same defensive edge that they had before, but they still got offense. They can still play that math problem. And watching Joe Mazzulla and how he now kind of operates without having those two, the gravity of both Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum is going to be fun to watch. Incorporating players like Anthony Simons into this, and whatever they do there with him, either long-term or trying to move on from him or whatever else it is. This is going to be a very not only fun season to watch how the basketball develops on the court and how Joe Mazzulla manages those personalities, but also how their play style is going to change, because I would think it's going to have to change quite considerably based off how it was the last couple of years. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I don't know. It should, but I think, hey, it's just because like their team is so run by analytics, which is not a negative thing, mind you. Like the analytics and the numbers and the data suggest that them taking, again, Haize, they took 53.6% of their total volume of shots last year as a team were from three. Over half.
That's crazy.
Over half their offense was 3-pointers. And they shot only 26% of their shots at the rim. And per Duncan three, that's only behind the Phoenix Suns. So I think for me, it's a matter of they don't necessarily need to fix their style, but they do need to find ways to close games in the playoffs, because that was also the issue with that. You know, they will be up by such amount of points, and then come playoff time, Jalen Brunson will hawk them down, and then they just didn't seem to have like the mojo to be able to push back against what other teams are doing and to be able to recenter themselves, and that way they can get the victory and close the series out. Because remember, when Tatum went down, there was like 3 minutes left, and they were down 9 points when he tore his Achilles, and it looked like the Boston Celtics were just going to outright win. So some of this is as simple as they're just going to have to continue to work on their identity, strengthen their culture, instill a belief in the players that no matter who's out there and no matter the situation, we believe that we can beat anybody any given night. And I think that more so for me is kind of the next step of the team, as opposed to changing up the style per se.
Okay, that's fair. When you look at the challenges that things that you still want to see from Joe Mazzulla, one of the things, for example, for me is like, and correct me at any point if you disagree, Swiper, but like I think one of the big things that I need to see from Joe Mazzulla is how he actually develops talent. Like a lot of the players that he inherited a lot of the roster. Luke Cornett's probably the only player that came in there and probably, he played a lot better than what he did. He had a completely different role than what he did. But like when you look at this team, they have Hugo Gonzalez, who I actually liked in that draft, Amari Williams, who I liked in that draft. I think the next kind of phase for Joe Mazzulla and his coaching is developing young players, especially considering the Boston Celtics aren't going to have amazing picks anytime soon because of how good that team is. How he develops and cultivates talent, especially at the end of the first round, that's a big thing for coaches and how they develop that talent, and that's what I'm looking forward to see what Joe Mazzulla does there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really interested about Keita. So Keita is 26 years old. He is a very interesting big. He's not like uber talented or anything like that. He's long. He's a good athlete. He's not super polished at this point, but that like seems to be kind of the project that you can spend this whole next 25-26 season on, working on his skills, working on the intangibles, working on things that just help him process the game better. Where again, by the time we get to next year, now all of a sudden he's a different level player. So I think that they have a lot of room for some of that, and just to be able to expand their game and allow for players like that to continue to grow. But I think Kata has an opportunity to do that. I'm actually curious to see what Peyton Pritchard does next season. But Hugo, we'll see as a rookie, what he's able to do next year with this team. And then Charles Tillman's another one. So they got projects. They got players that they can put through a system and through a feed and see if they can come out on the other side ready to help contribute to a championship. But, man, if not, it could be a rough year for Boston.
That's a fact. That's a fact. And I guess we'll see how that shakes out for Boston upcoming next year. Well, we're going to transition to the last topic for today, where we're going to talk about what Russell Westbrook and where he ends up. But first, we got to get into a message from FanDuel. Wow. Switch that one. My bad. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling with FanDuel? You can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like watch events. Whether I'm placing a same game parlay or watching a bet ride into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm part of the action. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. We're Locked On NBA Game Night coming up next. All right, before we get out of here, Swipa, Russell Westbrook, man. There's been a lot around Russ this offseason. I think the last thing that we heard was like the Kings were pursuing him, but then that completely quieted down. We don't know what's going on with that. Where do you think Russ plays next year, and how good is Russ going to be next season?
Man, that's tough, because I'm looking at these situations and I'm wondering, some of this is like, what does Russ want? And if it's just playing time, what's the best situation for that? Is it playing time plus like contention? He wants an opportunity like he was last year to go play deep in the playoff, to try to make the second or third round. What is the goal? Russ is still a very highly impactful points, rebounds, assists guy. And I mean that is in like, he's somebody who does a lot for your team, still a very active defensive playmaker. He's somebody that could drive, can create. Not a good jump shooter at all. Actually, one of the worst jump shooters in the league, but he had some really hot moments, like in the first round versus the Clippers, where he was able to sink 40% of his three-point shots. You look at some of the stuff that he does from a horizontal standpoint. This is the kind of player that you want to have on your team for defensive purposes, to be able to create tension on the defense in transition. Still a really good passer. This honestly feels kind of like a Mike Brown move with the Knicks. And somebody that can like upscale the offense without Jalen Brunson being on the floor, and then with Jalen Brunson, I think somebody that can do a lot of small and big things that are like making winning plays to help the team be able to move forward on an offensive set, or defensively to sit in a chair for a little bit and to guard and create some havoc. Like, those are all of the things that I think Russ does at a really high level. So I would like to see him with the team like that. I think that would give him a new environment, a new scene, a new bill of blood. Playing in New York would be great, and being able to help Jalen Brunson and Miles McBride kind of be the lead guard for that team. Now, him and the Josh Hart minutes would be a little, not great, but they can try to avoid that as much as possible. But he would work really well with Cat. He'd work really well with OG. I think he works really well with Mikal Bridges. That's about what I'm thinking. Like, that kind of situation, that kind of team coming off the bench, maybe being a situational starter. You bring him into the game, and then, you'll just kind of let him run the offense, make plays in short spurts, and then you bring him off for Jalen Brunson back in. It feels like the Knicks might be the best spot.
I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all. I like that a lot. I didn't think about the Knicks in that at all. One of the teams that I did think about more so because they may need a scorer off the bench was the Orlando Magic. But I do like the thought process of him being there with the Knicks. I think the Magic though could be another good team for him. They need as much scoring as they can get. Like you said, though, he's not the best jump shooter, but he's a player that can just find a way to score. There are certain times. I don't know if I said this on the show with you or if I was on with Matt Moore, that the Orlando Magic actually on tightly contested 3-point shots last year were 0% for the season. The whole entire season. They didn't make a single tightly contested 3-point shot last year. Go and look at it. It's one of the weirdest stats I ever saw. 0% on, I think it was like 0 to 3 feet from 0%, bro. It's mind-boggling. So they need somebody who can make some tough shots. So I would love to see like that there. And I really like that Magic team. I want to see them have the best success, but I can't lie. The Knicks, you may have changed my mind there. I like the concept of the Knicks a lot.
Yeah, I feel like that'd be a good fit. Obviously, Sacramento King, so that'd be another interesting fit as well. The Orlando Magic were that bad
on tightly contested threes, and they weren't that much better on mildly contested threes either. It was terrible, bro.
Well, in the playoffs, the Magic on just catch and shoot threes in the playoffs, the Magic shot 30%.
That's crazy.
They shot 30% from the field. They shot 29.1%. Period from three in catch and shoot. Yo, the next worst 3-point percentage is 32, and then the Nuggets at 32.8. Yo, sub 30 is horrible. I didn't even realize it was that bad, Haize.
Yeah, it's bad, bro. That's why they were willing to give up what they gave up for Bane. They need shooting badly there, bro.
They shot 32.7% in the regular season on catch and shoot.
It's terrible, man. They're terrible. They're held so much back by their offense. It's crazy.
Yo, I'm like at a loss for words.
For those that are not watching the YouTube video, Swipa's face is sheer utter basketball disgust is what we're seeing right now.
How do you shoot 32% from catch and shoot? I mean, that's why they got Desmond Bane, but see, that's the thing. I don't think Russ would help with that at all. Like, now he had moments last year. He was a really good quarter catch and shoot 3-point shooter, but just by the nature of the way they would collapse on the defense on the drive, they would just leave Russ open. I don't actually think that would solve any of their issues, Haize. Wow. Well, hopefully Desmond Bane can save that. Anthony Black is another player that needs to take a step there. So if you had to put your money on Russell Westbrook, one, is he in the league or is he in like the Euro League or something like that? Two, where is he? Three, is he playing every night?
Man, he better be in the league. Russ is still too good and can help too many teams to not be in the league. If Russ is not in the league at all, that's a travesty. That's pretty bad. I get it. He's not he's a flawed player or whatnot, but I still think there's a lot of teams that he can help. Playoff teams or not. Does he play a lot?
Every night. Like, he's an every night guy at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think he can. I don't know. Like, I just don't know at this point if that opportunity is going to be out there where he's going to be a guaranteed part of the rotation night in and night out. We're in August, bro, and he doesn't have a deal yet. If it's a team like the Kings, yes. If it's that type of team, yes. But if he ends up signing with like a contender, I don't think he's in the rotation every single night.
Yeah. So for me, I think he's in the NBA. See, Russell Westbrook, he will be. Let me see. He's 36, almost 37. His birthday is November 12th. So he'll be 37 years old.
That's crazy.
He'll be on a team, plays every night. I don't know. Like, I think that's what teams are also trying to figure out. Like, is he still good enough and effective enough for us to play him every night? But if he doesn't, what happens? Like, is the media gonna turn that into a story? Not Russ, but the media, his fans, will they turn that into a story? So that could be some of the stuff that's like delaying him right now. But man, I don't know. Like, could even just like the Nuggets probably not bringing him back. The Kings, they're trying to offload apparently like Carter or Monk in order to make room. The Magic, no. Look, you know what? I'll just put my money. I'll put my money where my mouth is. I think he's going to be in the league. He'll be basically in every night game, a night player. And it's going to be for the New York Knicks. I'll put my stamp on that.
All right. All right. Well, there you go, man. You got anything left before we get up out of here, Swiper?
No, I'm still befuddled by the Orlando Magic.
Bro, the shooting is it's crazy. It's honestly crazy how bad they are shooting wise. We want to thank you guys for tuning in, man, and sticking it out with this here on Friday night on Game Night, man. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, whether you're on the podcast side or on the YouTube side. Locked On NBA Game Night is available on every podcasting app and platform of your choice, as well as YouTube, the Odyssey app, Amazon Fire TV, Roku TV, Fubo TV. Anywhere you want to listen or watch podcasts, we're basically there. We'll catch you guys next week on Friday. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.